Fear Not, Episode 63. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. Hello, everybody. Today, you and I are going to be joined by Jess Lourey. Hey, Jess, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Are you ready to fear not today?
I am.
Jess Lourey is best known for her critically acclaimed Murder by Month mysteries, which have earned multiple star reviews from Library Journal and Booklist, the latter calling her writing a splendid mix of humor and suspense. Jess also writes sword and sorcery fantasy, edge-of-your-seat young adult adventure, magical realism, literary fiction, and thrillers. She is a tenured professor of creative writing and sociology, a recipient of the Loft's 2014 Excellence in Teaching Fellowship, a regular Psychology Today blogger, and a sought-after workshop leader and keynote speaker who delivered the 2016 Rewrite Your Life TEDx Talk. Jess, can you take a few moments to fill in the gaps and maybe give us a brief glimpse of your personal life as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. I live in Minneapolis with my husband, son, and stepson. I'm teaching full time still, and I write about 2 books a year. And I do, as you mentioned, the Psychology Today blog. And my first nonfiction book is coming out on May 1st, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Well, great, and thank you so much for sharing. Jess, would you also share with us one of the biggest fears that you've had to face?
Yeah, I will. I will. Thank you for asking. I grew up in Minnesota, pretty tumultuous upbringing. The daughter of a Vietnam vet with PTSD, and so I grew up in a tumultuous household with a lot of alcoholism. Went on to make my own mistakes in my 20s, and I continue to make mistakes. But in my late 20s, I thought I had it figured out. Met a wonderful, stable man, and got married, pregnant with my son, and my husband unexpectedly committed suicide. And I didn't know that he was even struggling with depression. And so it kind of, as you would imagine, turned my world inside out. And I went through a dark period, as dark as you can allow yourself to get when you're pregnant. And I realized I made the very conscious decision that I would choose joy for myself. And I was so afraid when I made that choice, just knowing that you can lose everything made it really difficult to make that choice. And so my greatest fear was choosing joy, and it continues to be something that I make a conscious choice of every day.
Oh my gosh. What did you do?
Yeah, and of course it's people help you and people lift you up, and it's many smaller points along the way. But for me, my secret weapon is writing fiction. And it didn't start out as a cohesive book. It started out after my husband's suicide as really a life-saving device. I had all of these unanswered questions, all of this pain, uh, all of this emotion with no place to put it. And I did not want to write memoir because I was in the middle of it. So I started writing fiction, and I started creating these worlds where you could have answers, and these worlds where you could tie things up at the end and there was closure. And it became this amazing safety device for me, as well as a bridge to a new, much healthier life.
So, just when you deal with fear, as we all do, what do you do? Do you always turn to writing when something comes your way that you need to work out, or?
When I can, I mean, that's a really good question because it's not always viable to, in the middle of dealing with fear, to pull out a notebook or a laptop and write a scene. I think that it's not a very good survival skill, but when I cannot write, And when I cannot reach out to a friend, but I'm struggling with fear, what I do is I run straight toward it. And so it's kind of rip the Band-Aid off quick philosophy. And so, as an example, you mentioned I gave a TEDx talk this past summer, and it was one of the most amazing and one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. I've always been very afraid of public speaking, and it does not get any more public than standing on that red circle in a TEDx stage and sharing a deeply authentic personal story. And so I knew I had a fear of public speaking. I knew it was keeping me from following through on other opportunities that I wanted. So I ran straight at it and I did the TEDx talk.
Jess, you must have come across a lot of resources or books that have helped you to get to where you are today in facing fear. Would you mind sharing some of those with us?
No, I'm absolutely happy to do it. There's so many phenomenal books out there. Some of the ones that have really influenced me are, have you read James Pennebaker's Opening Up?
No, uh-uh.
He's a sort of the founding father of the expressive writing movement, the idea of writing to heal. He focuses very much on journaling and memoir, and I prefer fiction, but the nuts and bolts of it are great. I also enjoy a lot of Deepak Chopra books, and also the Deepak Chopra meditations, which you can usually find free if you look hard enough. They're about 15-minute meditations. They're timed. It's perfect. I feel great afterward. What I'm reading right now is actually Friedemann Schaub's The Fear and Anxiety Solution. And I want to say he's a microbiologist. He's in the medical field. And so he's got all the amazing research on anxiety, but really practical ways to address fear and anxiety.
Are you ready for the speed round?
Yes, I love speed rounds.
Okay. What individual, whether they be fiction or real, has made the most impact on your life?
Oh, this is such a hard one, but I am going to say my late husband. He was a wonderful, amazing man, and in losing him, I realized how many other great people there are out there, and how much my own fears and my own judgments had been holding me back. And so, it was a great sacrifice, but his loss really gave me a lot of chances to meet good people.
And if you could change one thing in the world instantly, what would you change?
I would make everybody self-aware, and not only self-aware of who they are and what they have to offer, but also self-aware of their place in the community because we're all part of a global community.
What's your biggest weakness?
Oh, my biggest weakness besides carbohydrates? Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. So I'm going to say carbs, pull-ups, and taking on too much work. I have a hard time saying no when people need help.
What's your biggest strength?
Uh, Taking on too much work, I have a hard time saying no when people need help. I really like to connect with people.
And if you could only have one book to read, what's that book going to be?
You know, you're asking a writer that, and so that's like asking which one of my kids I love the best, but I'm still going to give you the answer of Isabel Allende's Eva Luna. She is a magical realism writer, which means you don't read the same book twice with her, even if it is the same book, because she layers words on images, on smells, and it's just transporting.
And do you have a favorite sound?
I do have a favorite sound. It is the sound of ice cracking over a puddle, and you are in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's different than ice cracking on a lake when you're standing on it. That's a terrifying sound. But ice cracking over a puddle, just that very thin, almost musical, almost like a wind chime sound. That's my favorite sound.
And Jess, if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I have a website that I'm really proud of at www.jessicalowry, and that's Lourey.com. I work with Bazango, a company out of Seattle, and they have some phenomenal animations on there, and hopefully it's a site you can get lost in, but also you can find my email address in.
And Jess, what parting advice would you like to leave with us today?
I am such a fan of writing to heal and writing to transform, and it works for absolutely, excuse me, it works for absolutely everybody. You do not have to be a writer. It doesn't matter what anybody told you about your abilities. It's just finding a quiet spot, putting pen to paper, and write for 10 minutes about something that's bothering you, not only listing what's actually happening, but how you feel about what's happening. And in 10 minutes, you can just clear out a tremendous amount of psychic space to invite in some good new stuff.
That's really excellent advice. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also want to let everyone know, too, that Jess has generously donated a 3-book set that includes her Salem Cipher to be given away. So if you would like the opportunity to win that set, visit the giveaways page at livingbeyondyourfears.com to submit your free entry form today. Jess, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It was really amazing meeting you, and you're so inspiring. So
Oh,
thank
thank you
you.
so much. I feel the same way about you, and I appreciate you inviting me.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God-given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.